Dr. Mary Hemphill. I am the North Carolina K-12 Director of Computer Science as well as Tech Ed, and I also am the founder of the Limitless Lady LLC and the Limitless Leader program. So in this venture, being North Carolina's first state director of computer science has been an honor. I have stretched myself. I have learned so many things about future-proofing education, because we're developing the first set of computer science standards for 1.5 million children and deciding what tech can really look like when it comes to innovation and how we can take our teachers from the concept of being lecturers and owning all the knowledge to the fact that we are helping them transition to embracing students who are walking through the door with more technological prowess, more social media savvy than sometimes the teacher. And that is an open-ended, open design conversation. And it has been my honor and pleasure. And just the tables that I've been able to sit at with thinking about what 21st century education can look like has really pole vaulted our thinking as a department and my thinking and growth as an individual, because we're starting to look at what 22nd century impact is going to look like. And I'm honored to be on the cusp of that conversation.
Wow, what a privilege. And I'm sure for you, this whole pandemic has opened so many people's eyes, but also probably opened a lot of opportunity. And we know that with any kind of growth, there is, resistance naturally, right? There's challenges that come with it. So I'd love for you to, just talk a little bit about what that experience has looks like. What does this mean for leaders right now? We have a few educators, sounds like more so in a leadership position that are here. We have Washington, D.C. in the house. We have New York. We have Florida. Yeah, we have a few New Yorkers too, and North Carolina as well, and Atlanta. So yeah, just share a little bit about that with us.
So the thing with COVID is what happened is within a week, we went from talking about traditional education, traditional schooling in a brick and mortar for the most part, some virtual schools out there, some homeschooling, to 100% homeschooling for children, and not all done by formal educators. We went through a transition of unschooling because different routines were broken. We had to really think about what this was going to look like for distance and remote learning. And then we woke up as a state, we woke up as a country, and we woke up as a global community with virtual school and virtual learning being at the cusp of what is happening for everyone. So what COVID did, not only for computer science, but also for education, is it hyper-visualized this inequity conversation. We all, as educators, we advocate and we say, it's not right that every student is not connected. It's not okay that your zip code determines your education. It's not okay that some students don't have access and some parents don't have access. But it literally forced us to define innovation within a few weeks.
Wow.
We have, not only as a department, but also as educators, if you've been in it, if you've been in educator prep programs or conferences or webinars, we've talked about what does innovation look like? What can we do to really sort of take our students on a journey that's going to appeal to their modalities and technology, that's going to help our teachers access new knowledge and as a global community come together? What COVID did is it said you need to define it and you need to define it fast.
Woo, yes.
So
I think a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Hollinger, he's a professor at Columbia and Capella University, and he shared that is typically a process that takes a couple districts and states a couple of years.
Absolutely.
And our people had to do that within weeks and days. And so thank you for updating that. I'm going to pin some comments so that we can come back to them.
Absolutely. And so in this revolution is what we've seen is that the state, particularly at the state level, we've had to use time differently. We've had to use resources differently, and human capital has been redefined because we have teachers who are so out of their comfort zones. So how do we support them through the screen to be able to go in front of students and just navigate this tech space? How do you prepare students to engage when you are battling and face to face with the fact that there may be one device in a home for 4 children? You may have a high school senior who needs to graduate and their, dreams of graduation are gone. You may have a 5th grader, and then you may have a kindergartner. What do you do as a parent? What do you do as a teacher to have those conversations? And then we have technically revolutionized space. So our classrooms are now our living rooms, and they're our bedrooms and whatever corner of the garage we can find to sort of navigate this conversation. And so when we talk about computer science really equalizing, what we're seeing nationally is that the computer science academics and researchers have started running solutions to this pandemic. And with computer science and with tech and with all those things, you can take 40,000 possibilities for how to cure this, for how to respond to it, for what could potentially happen post-pandemic, and what if we can predict another pandemic in the next couple of years. You could take 40,000 opportunities, 40,000 possible solutions. You can narrow it down to 11 because of the big data and the analytics that computer science programmers, software developers, and researchers are able to do with these computer systems. And when you know that, and when you have everyone in the country living this out, that is live data. And there's nothing better than live data to be able to predict the possibilities post-pandemic.
Wow. Wow. So while you were speaking about that and just like the realities of what this is looking like for teachers, for students, for families, someone made a comment here around like for you to speak to this. So kids are having the best education without the social pressures and some daily trauma, which has been, I've seen it a lot come up on Twitter, and just teachers have shared a lot of that, and even parents, like actually my child and leaders noticing that some children and many are not having to deal with the social pressures and the for some trauma that may come with schools and just what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely think that there are children who, when we talk about bullying, when we talk about the fact that middle schoolers or in elementary, high school, they're all in different areas of their growth and their development. And those come with that social trauma, that social drama that we were talking about. You have negated that. And so it has shown a spotlight on what's happening with the learning. But the fact of the matter is that even with the students who are having a quintessential experience, they're at home, they get 3 square meals a day, they can go outside, there's none of that. When we re-engage, when we come back together, whether it is 3 months from now, whether it is 6 months from now, how are you going to help your student? How are you going to help your child re-engage and transition back into this conversation? Because whether it's a positive experience or the absence of negative ones, everyone is going to need some time to heal from this. And so I love it because teachers can and parents can have this conversation about who is my child? Who would this child be after I send them back to school? Or am I going to make the decision to start homeschooling because I see a brand new child, I see a brand new student in front of me who is not distracted by Susie, who may be bullying them every day in third block, or by Tony, who, made fun of them because they didn't make the baseball team. What do I do to make sure my child is whole? What do I do to make sure my child is healing? And what do I do to make sure my child is going to be successful? Because, again, the real world, when it reopens, we're going to have to learn how to re-engage as humans.
Yeah, wow, that's huge. So let's dive a little even deeper here and focus on like, what does this mean for leadership? Like right now, and then as leaders, right? We're doing a lot of work. All of our work is virtually. What is this mean for us even reintegrating ourselves and our teachers and our staff back in after this period?
Absolutely. For sure. Well, I think the first thing is that particularly for leaders for self and leaders who are guiding other leaders, we have got to start practicing conscious consumerism. And what I mean by that is if we as leaders do not protect our ear gate, our eye gate, and our mouth gate over the next couple of months, we're going to let in not only erroneous information,
Yes.
we're going to let in negativity, and we're going to let in things that are going to not allow families, communities, and stakeholders to re-engage with us on a positive level. So when I talk about conscious consumerism, the whole world is now looking at educators in a very different light. We have been asking for the respect. We have been asking for people to take us seriously. We have been asking for budgets and legislation that support the phenomenal work that educators do every single day. Whether you are a building principal, a teacher leader, a superintendent, we have been asking for this. And now that the spotlight is here, what I'm seeing on social media, what I'm seeing in articles, what I'm seeing on the news is that there's almost a negative undertone of educators who aren't supporting parents, or who are liking or retweeting things that may be a joke, but at the end of the day, you know, it sort of perpetuates the idea that, like, let's see parents sort of shine now, or we've talked about this now, you know, parents, it's your time to shine. The best marketing that's going to happen for this education moving forward is going to come from inside our profession. So what that means is that we have to become advocates and allies. What an awesome opportunity to have a town hall meeting on Zoom or a town hall meeting on Facebook Live and talk about and shout out those parents, shout out those stakeholders who are doing wonderful things for children, to really highlight teachers who are doing innovative things. We've seen on Facebook the teachers who get in their cars and drive down the road just to say hi. That it's going to really, really mean we can't let everything in. This is also important for leaders, because if we let everything in, particularly if we focus on death tolls, if we focus on, you know, the fact that we may not come out of this for a few months, we don't have the outlets as leaders that we had anymore. And I think this is very important for building principals and district leaders. Your teachers, your guidance counselors, your social workers, your paraprofessionals, if you're in New York and Broadway was your outlet to just woo-saw, to get your mind off of things, to think about, Broadway's closed. If you love sports and you just love sitting down with a good plate of chicken wings and a good game, the NBA is closed. NHL is closed. Those things that we do as humans, as outlets, are closed. As leaders, if we don't start planning for ways where people can have deep, confidential, authentic conversations with us when we return, if we're not reaching out right now and creating support structures to build relationships, and if we're not thinking about what is our marketing strategy for education going to be like as a school, as a district, and as a country, if we're not thinking about that now, when we reopen the country, it will be too late, because we are the best advocates and allies for our profession.
What you're saying is really resonating with a lot of people. I just want to highlight the conscious consumerism that you brought up, and how we are re-engaging, how we're taking in information, processing that. And I love that you elevated, and really you're calling us to be advocates for our own profession in this time, and create the structures, not when we return. It's going to be too late for that. We need to be creating structures right now to ensure that, first and foremost, I think we as leaders have the outlets and the support that we need, because this is also for leadership. And there's a lot of leaders who I've spoken to across the country, from superintendents to school principals to vice principals to deans, district folks. Like, there's a lot of people who are also just trying to figure it out. Some days they got it together, some days they don't. And so my push here is for any leaders who are on here, whether in education or outside of education, make sure that you are getting the support that you need, whether that's from family. If you want something more that is a little bit more structured and strategic, go and get a leadership development coach, a coach who could also help you sort through whatever trauma you might be experiencing that you don't even know you're experiencing, you know, and then turning the lens to your staff and starting to think about how can I create this space for my teachers. Because when we create that space for our teachers and our staffs, then they can create that for whom? Our students and our family. And so thank you so much for elevating those points. Marketing strategy from leaders was something that resonated. You got a few fires there. Folks are also, let's see, marketing strategy discussion from leaders. That's actually a really good one. And then with a recession looming, how do we believe budgets will be slashed, causing partial or full salary freezes, similar to the last recession? And then someone else said re-engagement, which is a good top optic to reflect on. So feel free to go into any one of those or any other points that you had, Mary.
Absolutely. So when thinking about the budget, and definitely as a state, we're starting to see that. And I'm going to go back to what I talked about with innovation. So if we know that creating that 6-point lesson plan is not going to fly anymore, one, because you don't have the physical audience, and two, because now we're trying to figure out connectivity, we're trying to figure out devices. How can we, particularly at the district level, think about repurposing those funds, repurposing that budget line and saying, is this essential and critical to our mission and vision? So I'm going to take it all the way back. When you start with zero-based budgeting, you say, okay, here is the vision and mission. How can I realize this with the essential players at the table? How can I maximize and incentivize my teacher leaders? Because I want district leaders to remember, teacher leaders are going through a huge learning curve. It is a spike unlike none we've ever seen. Yeah. So what PD do I need to bring in that is going to get the maximum impact for students at the best price? And I am going to say this, companies are scrambling right now. They are lowering prices, they're slashing, there's BOGOs everywhere, you know, buy one PD course, get two free. Really coming to the table and bringing the right people around the table and saying, this is the dollar amount we have. And I want you to overestimate. You want to plan for the worst and hope for the best. But who do I need to bring around the table to make this critical? When I say equalized, when I say innovation, you have to have a teacher leader at the table that represents all levels and all cadres of your district or of your school. You need to have parents and families around the table. And I'm talking about your most affluent parents to the ones who are in socioeconomic distress. And it would not hurt to have student impact and student stakeholders at the table when you're making these financial decisions moving forward. Because I believe one of the things we do as adults is we say, this sounds good, this looks good, it has great impact, it's effective. We have never once asked a child. So, and when we shift, particularly when it comes to this recession, particularly when it comes to this budget, if we don't bring the people to the table who it affects the most, there's no way we're setting our schools up for post-pandemic success or our districts up for post-pandemic success, because this conversation around COVID has changed the game.
I just heard someone saying preach. So when we are planning, you all hear that, as we are planning for this recession, coming out of this pandemic, having stakeholders from at every level, the people that it affects most at the table, which is something that historically we often forget to do. The higher up we are, you know, people aren't doing that. And so thank you for that push. Post-pandemic success. And someone said we are coming out of this with a flexible workplace policy for parent engagement for kids' education. Any thoughts on that, Mary? And then we'll kind of begin to wrap up. Any final thoughts and just like concrete, bite-sized, bringing it all together for our speakers.
Absolutely. I love that somebody said that, because when you think about schools, and whether you think about a school in the suburb that has a PTO fund of $60,000, or whether you think about a school, a Title I school who is trying to figure out, how do I attract the best teachers? How do I build this community? What COVID has done is it has created a universal bond. Everyone is having the same experience. Yeah. So for parents and communities, we can't go back to brick and mortar. You should be thinking about, when I have my parent teacher conferences, what hours of the day can I shift and pivot to have parent-teacher conferences to accommodate? How can I have them virtually? Do I have to have them at the school? Why can't I open up a local facility, whether it's the YMCA, whether it's a local organization that has a huge fellowship hall or something of that nature? How can I re-engage our parents and community? Because now they're listening. Now I have their attention. Now they get it more than ever before. How can I extend that conversation? How can I empower them? How can I make sure that they know that they're appreciated? When we have student award ceremonies going back after this, why are we not awarding and rewarding and augmenting our parents and our community members who in this time did amazing things? And so remember that as an empathetic leader, you want to create bonds, you want to give insight, and this pandemic has done that. You've seen inside the classroom, all of our homes are now the virtual classrooms. And you want to cultivate better communication. And what better way to create some short and long-term goals to get outside of our virtual community and re-engage our parents like never before. If it goes back to the traditional model, if we go back to the way normal used to be, it is our fault.
Yes.
And we cannot continue to call this the new normal. We have to call it the now normal. Because from this point forward, post-pandemic, everything will change on a dime. And if you're ready, if you're poised, if you've got a plan in place, a marketing strategy, and if you keep this bond of actually being human, not going by your position, but just by the fact that you're a human, we're going to re-engage students, we're going to re-engage teachers and leaders and communities like never before.
You know, sis, you just like dropped the mic and like, this is one of those times where you drop the mic and it's like, damn. Thank you so much for touching on all of the points and bringing to light the things that we may not be looking at right now. Thank you for speaking from the lens of leadership and what should be happening right now. And as we're coming out of this pandemic, you did an amazing job lifting up the idea about conscious consumerism everywhere to, making sure that every stakeholder is actually at the table. And you all, if you just are joining right now, this is a must. You have to go back and rewatch this, and then you're going to have to share it with other people. And then by next week, it'll be up on our YouTube channel. And Dr. Hemphill, you will also have the link for you to share as well, because, wow, this is by far, one of the most empowering mornings. So thank you, everyone. And Dr. Hemphill, I just want to give you this time right now. You all, she is about to launch a limitless leader program. Can you just give us a little snippet? Because for the people, we got to hear a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So I have launched the Limitless Leader program. Very, very excited, because this is going to help individuals ignite the leader in themselves so that they can better serve their community, their company, or their personal career. This is for the single moms who know that they have a gift and have a purpose, and they're inside their home and they want to give birth to it. We have vision setting sessions. We have strategy sessions. This is for the mid-level manager who knows that there is more out there. They are not satisfied with the status quo and they're ready to take it to the next level. We sit down and we think about, what does your professional tool set look like? And this is for your Fortune 500 company or your superintendent who says, my district has plateaued, and I know that I want to push my teachers to this level. I know I want to push my students this level and open up these opportunities. We're ready. We have group sessions. We have workshops, one-on-one coaching and consulting. You can go to www.bealimitlessleader.com and you'll see all the information, testimonials. We are very, very excited, because leadership is something that goes with you. Whether you are working in a school, whether you go to the district level, whether you open up your own company, or whether you are at the grocery store, if you are limitless in your thinking, if you are limitless in your actions, you will have a limitless impact on your life and the lives of others. And we want to really help you get to that level.
Wow. All right. So you all heard it from Dr. Hemphill herself. Make sure you go and check out her website, her program, and her team's program. It sounds like, I know actually I've seen them doing some amazing work not just in North Carolina, but across the country. So make sure you check them out. Dr. Hemphill,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Thank you to all of our viewers.
Thank you.
Happy Friday to everyone. Make it count today. Get outside, get a little run, walk in. I know I'm going to do that today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.